Hey guys and gals, Perry here, and I am No One You Know for Story2Pixel.com. And today we're going to be talking about my new setup. This, my friends, is a Cinema 4D Stereo VR camera. Basically coupled it up together, and I'll explain everything. First, I'm going to show you how to install and use it on this video, and then on another video, if you guys want to get more in depth, let me know and I can do a video on how I actually designed it. So let's get started. So basically you'll be going to the link you'll see a link. It'll be going to my website, Storypixel.com, both Robert and I's website, and you will download this. So you open up the zip file, however you do it, and you end up with a folder. Inside the folder, you'll see three folders: Cinema 4D Scripts, Photoshop Actions, and VR Stereo Cam Master. Okay, where do we put the scripts? Well, if you open them up, you see there's two Python scripts, and then there's these little bitty icons for you. Real simple. Just open up Cinema 4D and go in Mac, you go to Edit Preferences. I'm not sure where on Windows. Go down here, bottom left hand corner, open Preferences folder. That opens that up for you. Open up your version, which in this case is R16. Go to Scripts. Oh, no, Library. Then Scripts. And then I created a folder with my nickname on it right here at the top. And you just grab all of the pictures and all of the Python, and you put it right in that folder, and you notice I've already done that. Now, then what you do is you restart Cinema 4D, and you will come up, let me close this, if you go to Script Window, Tools, Script Manager, then you can go through and you can grab all of, I've got all mine here under No One You Know. There's VR Cam left, there's VR Cam right. And if we let's go to the other one, left. Okay, and the icon will already be there because you've put it in the folder, all right? Now, if you want to put it up here like I have my two VR buttons, VRL and VR right. That's real simple. I'm just going to close this up, and all you do is go to Window, Customization, and then you go to Customize Commands, and then I would type in, I'm just going to grab, basically I would, let's see here, VR, right here. Now, in this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to drag one of these other ones up here. For instance, CV weight, and all you would do is just grab the VRL button, and you see it gets a little box here, and you can put it anywhere you want. Close. There you go. And then when the button's in place, you need to save the layout. Window, Customization, Save, Layout As. There you go. So, what goes next? Well, next, we have the Photoshop actions. Where do they go? I've got two of them. I've got an action and I've folder, and I've also got one for gradients. Let me show you where to put those. Let's see, where do I have Photoshop? Okay, there. So we need to go into, let's create a new. And in a Mac, what you'll do is you'll go up to Go, and you want to press Control, I think. When you press Control, no, there you go. When you press Alt or Option, you'll see that library shows up. You want this library. It's two different libraries. There's one that's just attached to Macintosh HD, and then there's one attached to the users. You want the one attached to the users. Go to the library. Go to Application Support. Go to Adobe. Go to Photoshop, whichever version of Photoshop you have, and presets. Okay, underneath presets, you are going to be looking for two of them. Gradients. I want you to put the GRD in the gradients folder. It may ask for a password. And you also, in your actions, you want to put the ATN in there. All right. If you haven't already, restart Photoshop and everything should be there. You may have to in Photoshop. Let's see here. If you go to GRD, and what you would do is you can load another one, and you go to that folder and you pull that up. And actually, you would go here, and since it's in the folder, I think you can select which one you want, and you say, do you want to append? And you say yes, and that will create, put it at the end there. So there's the gradients that you'll need for this tool. Okay, so next folder that you have uncompressed in the zip is going to be your file structure. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to take this folder and put it on your desktop. That's the easiest, because what you're going to do is you're going to make a copy of that folder each time you start a new project and you want to use this, and put it wherever you want to. So you'll have a master, and then you make a copy of the master and rename it to your project name and go from there. So inside there's a folder for your old elements. There's a folder for your output. So you have a folder for left, for right, and then for your final output. So another thing is your displacement maps. You will be needing this, and I'll talk about this later, but here are your two displacement maps. They're just grayscale gradients. And then here is the C4D file itself. This way you don't have to navigate a long way to get to your displacement maps. They'll be right there with you at all time, and they're not that big anyway. They're just 11 and 2 megabytes. All right, so when you open up the template, this is what you get. It may look a little goofy, but everything has a purpose here. First, we've got the figure with the head. Now, what the figure is I made it average human height. And what you want in VR is you want everything to be to scale. So this is average human height. I think it was set at, let's see what I set it at, 176 centimeters. Okay, 176 centimeters high. You want to build everything in your VR world to this scale, to your human scale. This is the reflective sphere. Actually, we'll go into that later. There's two of them. And what these do is you want them to be at the height that a human head would be. If you put this down ground level, everything's going to be off when the user is using it. They're going to look like they're going to feel like they're on the ground looking up everywhere. So, or if it's too high, they're going to be saying, wait a second, I'm looking down on everything. So what you do is you put it at the height of a human head. That makes them more comfortable. Okay, now the next thing is, this is the ring. This is set at 1.5 meters. This represents, according to John Carmack, who is the gentleman who was responsible for Doom, and he's also the chief technology officer of Oculus Rift. Really smart guy. Listen to his talks, man. It's amazing. Anyway, this ring represents your safety zone. Make sure everything that you model is outside of this ring. If anything is inside the ring, it makes the viewer uncomfortable. It's too close to the viewer. They're not comfortable viewing it in virtual reality, and there's multiple reasons for that, but just keep everything out of the safety zone. So everything on the outside, nothing on the inside. All right, and then we have this pole. The pole we will talk about later. Now we're going to talk about the most important thing, the head. This is the actual camera itself. It may look big, and but I set the center of the head where the eye ports are. So if I go here, when I first started out, if you remember tutorial about a month ago, I did a monoscopic camera for Cinema 4D, and basically all it was a sphere with a reflective surface texture on it, and then I would bake the surface texture and create an equal rectangular out of that. Well, so I thought, well, easy. I'll just make two of these, and then I can have a stereo camera that way. Well, this is the problem. Watch this. When you take, let me do this. When you take these, and looking forward, you have stereo separation because you got two eyes, right and a left, and they're separating, in this case 63 millimeters. This is an exaggeration, I just wanted to show you. And if you look straight ahead, you have separation. But if you look to the left, you'll notice that the right camera is looking through the left camera, which means it sees the same as the left camera, which makes it monoscopic. Same thing if you look to the right. Now, if you look behind, well, there's stereo again, but it is flipped because the left-hand camera is actually looking to the right-hand side of your backwards image, and the right is looking to the left. So what's going to happen is when you go from forward in a stereo to reverse, you're this way, anything that is in the distance will look close this way, and anything this way that's close will look like it's in the distance this way. It'll flip. That makes it very uncomfortable for the viewer. It can actually make them sick. So another thing is, if you look this way, if the viewer looks too far down, the cameras will switch again. And if they look too far up, again, the cameras will switch again. So anything close will look far away, and anything far away will look close. This is not good. The key thing in virtual reality is to make sure the viewer does not get sick. So how do we solve this? Well, Oculus, the smart guys at Oculus recommends, and let me show you, that you set up 2 cameras. And instead of having a big field of view like you would on a normal camera, you have a narrow one. In this case, they recommend 1 degree by 180 degrees. So 1 degree wide by 180 degrees tall. You set up 2 cameras this way, set them up at your IPD, which is your interpupillary distance, which for an average human being is 63 millimeters. Male is 65, female is around 62, so they just say average 63. And what you do is you take these 1 degrees and you move them 1 degree at a time, and you take a shot like this for each frame all the way around. Boom. So how do you do this in like Cinema 4D or Maya or anything like that? Well, you actually increase the number of cameras so that you get full coverage. And I'm going to stick this up here. So now you have, let me see if I can do this real quick. You have the left-hand cameras, and you have the right-hand cameras. Well, this is the deal. You can't do this in Cinema 4D. Cinema 4D's camera's field of view is limited. I think the maximum it can go is 175 by 175. When you go down to 1 degree, it's like 1 degree by 4 degrees or something like that. So it does not work. You need 1 degree by 180 degrees. That's 1 degree wide by 180 degrees high. So what I thought is, well, you know what? I remember doing the sphere. So what I did is I'm going to create part of a sphere. And instead of dealing with 1 degrees, I decided to deal with 5 degrees. So it'll be 72 5-degree slices. And I just created an arc that was 180 degrees, threw a lathe on it, made sure it was 5 degrees. And then, let's see here if I can do this. That's what it looks like overhead. So basically what you do is you stick this in a cloner, increase the number, and this is what I created. So a bunch of cloners, and then I had to turn them into editable objects and rename them and everything, and I came up with this, which is the template. So let me show you how to use it. I've set up a scene file right here. Basically, we just have a nice little setup here. Let me see if I can look around for you guys. That's the view from the head of the mannequin itself. And so I am going to look at it basically from the editor camera. All right. So if you look around here, you can see that we basically have a scene with a bunch of 3D items. Now this, the only reason I'm doing it with this sky background, because the sky background is actually a very bad thing to do in this particular case, because you have all these elements that in Z space get closer and farther away. If you're doing a sky element, you would want it to all be one distance. And what they say is the sky element should be about 20 meters away from the camera itself, from the center. So that's a number that was that I have heard tossed about. And let me go ahead and just move this. So the reason I've had the sky object itself is I want to show you guys this, the branches, because I want you to see what the poles look like and different ways to treat the poles. Remember, the poles are supposed to be mono, and I'll have links to certain papers and other websites that explains this much better than I do. If you want to take the time to learn, I figured a lot of people would not. So right now we've got a bunch of branches overhead, and we're going to have left-hand cameras and right-hand cameras, and they're going to be offset, and I'll show you how to deal with that in the poles. So how does this work? Well, let me zoom out a little bit. First, let's switch back to the template so I can show you real fast. When you first open up the template, you would build your project and then dump the camera onto it. This right here. So if you open this up, if you highlight, if you select the template itself, the camera's VR stereo, there's where all your user data comes up. And we're going to go over this step by step. I just wanted to show you where it is. And also underneath it, you have, if you want to see, if you're doing animation, you want to see through the camera so you can animate. This gives you a forward view, a wide forward view, so you can kind of see where you're going. Normally I just leave it off. This is your figure itself. If it bugs you, you can turn them on and off. And this is your fuller sphere here. And I'll show you this a little bit later. So let's go back to our setup. So when you're ready to render, do your bake, the first thing you want to do is you want to highlight the camera up here. And then you want to go and let's turn on the left-hand render. Now, remember that file structure that I had you do? Let's see here if that's here. Yeah, so you have old output, PS displacement maps, and then the template itself. So you've made a copy of this, and this is your new file. And so you have an output for left and an output for right. So the first thing you need to do is you need to come over here and hit left eye render. And what you want to do is make sure nothing else is checked. Make sure right eye render is off and all the polar stuff is off. We're going to be doing that later. You need to output. So let's set an output for you. And in this case, I am going to go to here. You would do it. Okay. Now, the thing is that's all you have to do is you just have to select the folder it's going to be in, and you're going to select the left-hand folder, the left folder in your hierarchy. Leave the one there. There's a reason why it's there. It's for the naming structure in Espresso. And if you want, I can go, you want to learn more about how I did the Espresso for all of this, leave comments and I can do another video on more in depth on how I designed everything. So I'm going to set up a ping, and we're going to set up the width. Right now it's at 2880. If I set it to 1440, you notice that the height is automatically changed. Did that for a reason, because equirectangular, remember from the mono, has to be 2 to 1. So we're going to set a ping 2880 by 1440. And the IPD, I've got a note here. Average human IPD for men and women is 6.3 centimeters. So keep it at 6.3. You can change it, but you better know what you're doing because you could really screw things up. You can make the stereos too severe or not good, not enough stereo. So for right now, if you made everything to scale, according to this little guy here, if you created your project around the little guy to his scale, leave it at 6.3. So all you have to do now is I have buttons up here, and these buttons are from the script. Now, one quick thing I want to show you in the script, because I got to give the guy credit. He really set me up with a few lines of code, which I incorporated here, and he's fully acknowledged here. I'd like to shout out thanks to Charles Rowland, Raging Claw on Twitter. At Raging Claw. He's a really good Python guy for Cinema 4D, and he actually got me into it. All the lines that he contributed, I made a little comment saying, for Raging Claw. Thank you very much out there. If you ever see this, I appreciate it. So all you have to do is you have sent it, know where it's going to as a file. Make sure the left eye render is on. Almost made a mistake there. And we've got the name and structure set up, and it is going, in this case, to my left. And then it's ready. Just press VRL once. Now, this takes approximately 11 to 12 minutes. Sometimes it takes longer. It depends on how many programs you have open, how much RAM you have, etc., etc., etc. Basically, I'm going to pause it right now and let it do its work. Okay, we are back. That bake is finished, and this is what it looks like. So you have your slices. Basically, this is representing 180 degrees this way by 5 degrees this way. So we have 72 slices. So let's go ahead and do the right-hand one. So all you have to do is uncheck left-hand render, check right-hand render. This is the important part. You need to change where you're going to put it. Make sure you remember that. So it's going into the right-hand folder. Again, leave the number 1 alone. You're not renaming anything. All the naming is done automatically. So let's go up here to VR right. Check real fast. We are right-hand render. Right eye render, right. And let's go right. See you in a little bit. Okay, we are back, and if we go to the right-hand folder, you will see that we have stripes here. We have the strips, 5-degree strips by 180 for the right hand. So we have it for the right hand, we have it for the left hand. Now, go back to here. If you remember, going back to this, that we start, how this works is for the reflective sphere, that for the right and a left hand eye, we have 2 cameras, right hand camera and a left hand camera. And we go up, increase the number, in this case 72. There's a hole here where the poles are. There's a hole in the north and there's a hole in the south pole. That's because the cameras are separated by 6.3 centimeters. So this hole here, we got to fill it in. And that's why I have this. Let me go back here. Got something for the spheres, the polar spheres. So go back here to our user data and turn off right-hand render, turn on normal. I have several different types. I have a full reflective sphere, so that way it's everything including the north and south pole. That way we can easily fill in the north and south hole. I can also do, if you notice Google Cardboard, if you look at a lot of them, they have, let me get in here a little bit closer. You can see that they have some sort of either black or a white gradient to cover up the top and the bottoms. Another thing they have is some people put a logo in there. So I have 3 different ways of doing it. If you go to north and south poles and user data, there's normal. That will be output a full reflective sphere, and I'll show you what to do with it. And then there is a white gradient, and you can color correct it in Photoshop when you're outputting it. You can make it any color you want to, and then also a logo. Let's output all 3 of these, and let me show you. So first thing will be the polar render normal. We need to change the location where we're going to go. So output file name, go down here, and let's put it in. I got a folder here called polar test. I'm just going to put it in there. Now, if you go up here, the way we render this is you actually have to go up and open up camera and click on the tag here, the bake texture tag. And so what we have is, you'll see here that when I change, I'm going to go ahead and do this real fast. And I am going to pull this aside so you can see what I'm doing. You will notice that in the naming convention right here, watch this. When I have polar normal, it automatically says polar reflection. When I say white gradient, it changes to polar gradient. And when I click logo, it automatically names it to polar logo. So it's already automatically set in your name. All you have to do is tell it which folder. You do not tell it which folder here. You have to go here in the user data. And right here where it says file name, that's where you pick which folder it goes. Leave the one in there. Everything else is done automatically because of the one through Espresso. And I'll cover that in the next video if you guys want to know about that. So let's go up here, polar normal. Make sure you have both tag and options open so that you can see everything. All your width and everything is set in the user data. You don't set anything here, and it automatically sets reflection, because if you notice here, it says reflection. For white gradient, it changes the surface color. And for logo, it changes the surface color. I did everything as automatically as possible for you guys and gals. So now I'm going to set it on normal. I've already told it where to go, and it's going to create polar reflection. So go down here to bake, hit bake. Okay, next one, white gradient. And I'm going to hit bake again. And then for logo, hit bake again. And this is what we end up with. Get out of here, go to polar test. We have the gradient, and you, like I said, you can color correct this to be anything that you want. Then I have the logo surface color here. That's the logo itself. And then this is the full reflection. And next I will show you how to use this and in Photoshop and to apply the folds. All right, hang on. Okay, a couple of quick things I want to add about the logo. This one right here. So you're going to find in the little package that I'm going to give you guys a PSD. And this is it, logo PSD. And you can replace it with anything you want. Right now it's at 2000 by 2000, and you have a little bit of room here to design. So make anything you want. Keep it within this 2000 by 2000. And the first thing you should do is, after you finish your design, is go over here. Basically, you just want to trim it. So, image, trim, transparent pixels, top, bottom, right, left. 1976 by 1976 was what I end up here. The second thing you want to do is highlight everything. You got the polygon right here. That's the center. Anything you want in there, put it in there. Your logo itself and your background layer for that. Highlight all three and then go over, and what you want to do is filter, convert for smart filters. Hit OK. And then go to filter, distort, polar coordinates. Now you will see that there's two different types. You have rectangular to polar, which looks like that. And then you have polar to rectangular, which looks like that. This is what you want, polar to rectangular. Hit OK. And then what you do is you just output for web. Save for web, make it a ping or whatever you like. And output that. I am going to go ahead and just go back to where we were and close it out while that's saving. So that will be in the package there, and that is your logo. So once you have your ping for the logo, the easiest way to bring it in is right here. Actually, let's just boom. Go down here to North and South poles. You can see logo here. Go through your file structure, find the ping, and it'll show up here. You can also on all the on the gradients and the logo, you can change the size with this right here. Right now it's set at 15%. Let's go up to like 30%, which is the max. And you can make it bigger or you can make it smaller. Okay. I'm going to put it back to 15. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to put everything together in Photoshop. You've got your actions. Make sure you've gone ahead and loaded your actions, and you'll come up with 3: frame builder, prep left, and prep right. Just go ahead and press frame builder, and then you need to navigate to where the files are, and we're going to do the left hand first. So select all. I've got it here, files. I selected all. Do not need to check anything else. Go ahead and hit OK. Let it do its job. What it's basically going to do is it's going to load all of the strips, and then it's going to turn it 90 degrees, and then it's going to make the canvas larger, and then it's going to take the strips and line them up end to end. Just like that. So now that's what we have. And this one here is the left-hand one. Oh, and it's also going to create a smart object. So now let's do the second one. Let's do the right hand. So, and then browse, go to right hand folder. Same thing. Okay, so we've got right hand. We've got left hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the right hand, put it on top of the left, so you can see what it looks like. And we got one more thing we need to do. So I'm just going to put the left hand on top. One more thing we need to do is we need to load up the polar. So in this first case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up polar test. We have the 3. We're grad, logo. I'm going to load this one up first. Hit open, and I am actually going to, tell you the truth, I'm just going to take these 2. Okay, there we go. So what we have here is and this is what I want you to look at. Where is that little puppy? If you look at the polar right there, you notice that if I take a marquee, just run it all the way while holding down the shift to keep everything nice and even, you see that this circle is even. Now, if you turn on the right, you will notice something. If I hold down shift, drag the marquee, make it even, and bring it down to the bottom, and then shift it over, you'll notice that there is a difference. It's a little bit taller than it is wide. Okay, so one of the reasons is the polar is a complete sphere. And don't forget, the right and the left were created from slices, and there was a hole at the top and the bottom. So that's why I created the polar to compensate for that. So what do? Well, I have a prep left and a prep right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this up. If you click back and forth, you can see how it's all the distortions and stuff like that in the left-hand render. So I compensated for everything. Now I'm going to turn on the left. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to go prep left. And it is going to ask for a displacement. So this is where, hold on one second. There we go. This is where the displacement gradients come in. So this first one is displacement vertical. And then the second one is going to be displacement polar. Just remember that. Vertical will be first, polar will be second. Okay. What we're looking at is we're trying to match it. And each one is going to be different, so you may have to modify the gradients. And I'll go over this in the second video. Oh, and one other thing I forgot to do is it ends up highlighting this mask here. So what you do next is you go to your gradient tool. You make sure the gradients are loaded and you want the polar mask gradient. Hit OK. And then just draw a line while holding the shift from the very top to the very bottom. That way it's absolutely straight. And what this does is it masks out some of the left at the top and the bottom. So basically, let's see here. If I look at channels, if I turn this on, that's what the mask looks like right there. And so that is putting a mask on the left-hand channel to allow the poles of the polar sphere, reflective sphere, to come forward. And that way, I'll go ahead and turn that off. When I do the same thing with the right, I'm going to repeat myself. Okay, right, actually, turn on, highlight, pick, select right, does everything. Vertical, and polar. And then turn around, and I select, it should already have mask selected, and then with gradient tool, okay. Now, I set this up for this particular image right here. And this is the reason why. If you look at this, and I'm going to turn it on and off, you are going to notice that from about here down and from about here up, it's going to stay the same compared to the poles. What this is doing is it's stereo here on the bottom. And if you look here, this is what the adjustment pole is for. If I pull out a guide, and you may have to adjust it on whatever you're working on. Okay. If I pull out a guide and if I switch back and forth, the pole doesn't move. It just spins, and it should be the same as the polar region. So polar, right, left. If you look at the smart filter here, you notice there is an offset, and the offset is what changes the position of the pole. It offsets the whole picture from right to left so that it matches the pole of the polar. And that is how you get the pole is set at the closest distance, that safety distance, 1.5 meters away. And that is where I'm setting the convergence of the stereo. And that's where in a stereo 3D, like a movie or something like that, your convergence you can adjust. You can make it farther back in Z space and farther forward in Z space. But the thing is you can't do that in VR, because in VR, there is no forward space into audience space. There's only backspace from convergence back. If you have anything in front in convergence, and that's why I told you not to put anything around within that circle, it's going to make it very uncomfortable because it's going to try to jump out into the eyeball of the whoever's wearing the headset, and that doesn't work. That makes them sick. In VR, you can't have forward space. It's everything from screen space back. So this is how you adjust that. You want the right and the left to use the same convergence points as the polar. So you notice right here, it doesn't move. All it does is spin slightly. Now you have stereo. So this is screen space because it's not moving. Everything is moving behind it. And that's how you get your stereo. And Okay, this video is getting long enough as it is. If you want further technical explanation of the actions, frame builder, prep left, and prep right, leave a comment on the YouTube page, and I will do another tutorial. And it'll dissect everything and show you all the technical explanations for how Stereo 3D works in VR, how VR works, and how these actions work, how the displacement maps work. I'll get into all of that. I'm trying to keep the video as short as possible. It's running long as it is, and let's move on to the next point. So the convergence pole, I would render it out once, just so you can set your convergence, make sure it's where you want it to be, and make sure that your left and your right, after you run these actions, are lining up properly. And then I would run another pass from Cinema 4D, output a new set of lefts and a new set of rights and a new polar setup, so that without this, just go into Cinema 4D and let's see, where is it? Oh, let's see here. I think we can turn on the layers here. Everything's in layers, and if I'm not mistaken, it's in camera. And we have an alignment cylinder, so you can turn it off. And that should do it. Let's make sure. I'm going to go up here and turn on the camera. Okay, so that's your cylinder right there. If you turn it off, boom, you can go ahead and render it out without the cylinder. It automatically is not rendering out without the ring, but the cylinder is so important that we need to render it out for at least a first pass, so you can make sure you set up your stereo and everything is properly done. So I'm going to turn this back on, and then I'm going to turn off the camera. And then switch back to Photoshop because I need to show you something here. Okay, if you get up into here, and I am going to turn off the right. The idea behind this is the poles you do not want to move. There is a transition between the pole and the left hand and the pole and the right hand. And so what you're trying to do is it's transforming everything. It's doing a shift on the left so that it meets the pole. And you may have to adjust the gradient. This is how you do it. You go and you highlight the gradient and you pick a brush. Make sure your colors are black and white. And just, let's see if we're doing this. Yeah, see, there you go. So now that looks nice. If you switch back and forth, it's kind of believable. It's going to be a little bit of a blur. Just play around with it. Don't forget, it doesn't have to be perfect because people are not going to be looking straight up. But just check out, and if you see any weird things like right up here, you can see there's a bit of doubling up here. So let's pick one or the other. You make it smaller, go from there, and just make your adjustments. Now, if you're doing animation, this is going to be a bit painful. That's why I am thinking of this as more of a tool to show your client scenes. So you show a still of one scene, still of the other, so they can look at the design and they can say yay or nay. And this means that you don't have to go into Unity or anything and set up all your stuff for that. It's something you could do, and it's quick and dirty. And you can move along instead of just constantly going into Unity with all bringing all the elements in and you know, that kind of stuff. So this is just basically a tool for your workflow. It's not really meant to be something that you do animations with. It would take way too long to try to go in there. Now, another thing is a lot of time on the poles, you're looking down at pavement and you're not going to notice that much of a difference. Or you're looking up at the sky and it's all blue and it's going to look the same anyway, and you're really not going to have to do much. Okay, so now that's how to get the sphere if you want actual poles on the right and left, and you would do the same thing on the left. Let's try out something else. Let's start with the logo. Okay, I'm gonna just open this up, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn these mask off, and we will not need the background anymore, the polar reflective sphere. And I'm just going to take this, holding shift to hold it in place, and drag it onto the very top. First thing I need to do is get rid of this black. And I'm going to highlight the black and just hit delete. So there you go. That is how you get the logo in there. So an equirectangle, it'll wrap around and you'll see your logo at the top and the bottom. Now, the reason you do this is a lot of times, like I said, this portion here will be stereo. This portion on the bottom will be mono. And that's a good way just to hide whatever's on the top and the bottom. Some people do it because they got a tripod here, or they got a crane arm here, or something like that. So you can use a logo. A very popular way of doing it. Another way, let's go ahead. I'm just going to turn that off, is we can open up that graduated surface. Now, all you had to do here is just drag it over and then just hit and turn it into a screen. Boom. There you go. You can make this different colors. You may not, let's see here. You can color correct it. You can make it black if you want to, just whatever. You can fade it out slightly, and a lot of things you can do. Just use your imagination. But it's the same thing. If you don't have a logo, you can just throw this in there to hide whatever's on the top and the bottom. All right, and that, and then, oh, forgot. Let me just go back, and I'm going to take these, bring this back in, bring in the polar, and I'm just going to get rid of these, the logo and the gradient. So now, how do I get this ready for output? Because right now, they're stacked on top of each other. Now, there's several different ways of doing it. I'm going to show you one way, and you will be able to guess the second way. I'm going to do a side-by-side. You can also do a top and bottom, and it's basically the same principle. Just instead of doing it side-by-side, you just do it top and bottom. Okay. So first we need to preserve our layers right now. So we're going to make copies of everything. So I'm just going to take all of these, and I am just going to drag them up, holding the Alt, and then I am going to take the polar, do the same thing, and I'm going to take one of the polars, and I'm going to put it underneath the left, and the other polar will go underneath the right. I'm going to turn off the originals, and I'm not going to touch them. Now, the thing is what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to take this left, and I'm just going to say, where is it? Merge down. Same thing, right? Have it merge down onto the polar. So now we have a full left, and I'm just going to go ahead and name that, and a full right. So next thing we're going to do is I am going to transform. So just hit Command, highlight the left, transform, go up here, and we're going to have it start from the left. And we're going to bring the width down to 50%. And then on the right, start with the right, Command T, and we're going to do it from the right with 50%. Now, this is something you got to look at. You'll notice that there's some pixels here with some transparency on them. Is not all the way, and it's the same thing on both ends. Now, what if you do this in VR? What's going to happen is you're going to have seams running from the top to the bottom, and you don't want that. So actually, in right here, the sawtooth pattern that you see, that's kind of a little discrepancy on the output, and you'll see it both top and bottom. What's going to happen is you're going to have a little swirl at the top or a little swirl at the bottom of your view when you look through the HMD, when you look through the goggles. What you could do is just use one of Photoshop's repair tools to fix this. Okay, back to the transparent pixels and the seams. How do we repair those? I'm going to take the left, make a copy of it. I'm going to take the right, make a copy of it. I'm going to merge down the left, and I'm going to merge down the right. And the seam should be gone now. There you go. You just have the seam where the seams meet, but you don't have any transparency issues on either end. All right. And that right there is your left and your right. And you would make a ping out of this. First thing I would do is save it as a Photoshop file. That way you have all your layers. You have your output here, and you have your original layers right here. Save it as PSD. So I'll just hit Command S and make it easy. All right, and I'm going to save that in the output. And if you looked at the structure that I gave you, okay, you'll notice in the file structure that I gave you in an output, there was a final, a left and a right. So just stick it in the final. And in my case, I'm not using this file structure. I'm just using what I originally had. So I'm just going to put it in an output, and I'm just going to call it demo. PSD. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn on the left. Actually, I'm going to leave them both on like an idiot. And I'm just going to save for web, just to make it nice and small, and I can put it on my phone. Save it as a ping. Let it do its job. Save, and then let's pick out a good place for this. And I'm just going to call it demo ping. So now, if I go over here, output, I should see demo ping. And there's your left and your right. And I would just put it in Dropbox and pick it up in your iPhone or cell phone or whatever. And then you can use your cardboard viewer, your home window, open it up. It is basically set up for side by side. And go from there. I use, there's different apps that can read this. And that you can use in your iPhone. And that's basically it. If you guys like this and you want more technical information on how I built everything and get more precise as to the theory behind all the stereoscopic and the VR and why things were done the way they were, leave a comment on the YouTube page and get back to me, and I will do another tutorial in the next few weeks. Gets more in depth. One final word, I'd like to repeat what I said earlier in the tutorial. This is not meant to be a full-scale rendering, stereo rendering for your use with clients and stuff like that. It's good for giving them stereo views of certain scenes, so they take a stereo still and show them for approval. So you take it up the first scene, the second scene, the third scene, and they can say, I like this background, I don't like this background, I want this element here, that kind of deal. Approvals on the logos, etc., etc. If you want real stereo, really good stereo, you should pay for it. And the big thing I would recommend is Otoy's got a solution. They have a stereoscopic VR actually, and they are also getting into light fields, and that's a lecture for another time. So this is good if you want to experiment stuff for your reel, stuff to show the client for approval. But for final output, I would use a real rendering solution with some sort of render engine. I've heard a lot of good things about Otoy. Again, my name is Perry, and this is for storytopixel.com, and everybody have a good day. Thanks, man. Bye.